Welcome to today's deep dive. So, um, for this one, we're looking at some really fascinating source material from a Hartford tree service, and we're getting into the surprisingly scientific world of stump grinding.
Yeah, it's a highly specific topic, but man, it is so important for anyone who manages a property.
Oh, absolutely. And our mission today is really to discover why, successfully cutting down a tree is, well, it's really only half the battle. We're going to explore all the mechanical and biological stuff required to actually reclaim your landscape.
Right, because most homeowners, they think a chainsaw just solves a dying tree problem.
Yeah, exactly. Like you hear that final crack, the trunk hits the dirt, you haul the logs away, and it feels like a victory.
It does. The canopy is gone, the sky is open, and visually, the job just feels done.
But the most dangerous part of a dying tree is actually the part you leave behind. Okay, let's unpack this. Because assuming the job is done just because the tree is felled to me, it's like painting a room but leaving the blue painter's tape on the walls forever.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right, like it completely ruins the aesthetic, and eventually it's going to peel your paint.
Yeah, I completely agree with that analogy. It's totally counterintuitive, though. I mean, we look at a flat piece of wood flush with the grass, and because it isn't moving or, growing leaves, we just assume it's inert.
We assume the story's over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But a leftover stump is not just this harmless piece of wood sitting there quietly. It's actually a highly active, lingering liability.
Really?
Yeah. It continues to interact dynamically with the environment.
See, to me, a dead tree is just a dead tree. Like, you take away the canopy, it has no life source. But looking at this Hartford research, we have to look at the biology.
Right. And the very first step to reclaiming that landscape is completely dispelling this illusion of dead wood.
The illusion that it's just gonna, like, fade away.
Yeah, exactly. Property owners look at this exposed stump and assume, well, it's wood, it's in the earth, nature will just run its course and rot it away.
Which, according to the source, is a massive underestimation of how resilient hardwood actually is.
Mass.
Because if you leave a sizable oak or a maple stump in the ground, natural decay doesn't take a season or two. You're looking at years.
Decades, in a lot of cases. It can take decades for that wood to fully break down.
Decades of just waiting.
Right. And during that waiting period, the stump doesn't just pause in time. It actually becomes a focal point for an immense amount of biological activity.
Especially when you factor in the climate, right? Like the source uses Hartford, Connecticut as a perfect case study for this because of its weather engine.
Yeah, the weather engine is key here. Think about those New England weather extremes.
Right, you get those brutal freezing winters and then just a few months later, totally sweltering humid summers.
Yeah, exactly. So think about the physical mechanics of that freeze and thaw cycle.
Yeah.
In the winter, moisture from the rain and the snowmelt, it seeps right into the microscopic fibers of that dead stump.
Okay, makes sense.
And when the temperature drops below freezing, that trapped water expands by about 9%. Yeah. And inside the rigid cellular structure of hardwood, that expansion acts like millions of microscopic wedges. It physically forces the wood grain apart.
So it's basically shattering the wood from the inside out.
It severely microfractures the stump. And then summer rolls around, the ice melts, and it leaves these widened, moisture-trapping fissures perfectly exposed to that dense, humid New England air.
Which sounds like the absolute perfect recipe for fungal growth.
It is a total paradise for fungi. Spores thrive in that exact environment, damp, dark, structurally compromised wood.
Right.
And once the fungi start breaking down those complex cellulose fibers, it just softens the wood even further.
Which makes it highly vulnerable to pests. The research specifically points out that this softening, decaying wood is basically a massive dinner bell for destructive insects.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking about termites, carpenter ants, wood-boring beetles.
Right.
To a termite colony, a rotting stump is basically a fortress with a built-in buffet. It holds moisture brilliantly, it offers deep protection from predators, and it provides an endless supply of food.
Hold on, though. I want to push back on this a little bit.
Okay, sure.
Because I thought the whole point of nature was to break dead things down. So if we have a dead stump in the yard, why are we fighting the fungi and the termites? Like, aren't they basically doing free waste removal for us?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, nature is indeed doing its job.
Right.
Like in the middle of an isolated forest, a rotting log is a really vital, healthy part of the ecosystem. But the core issue here is proximity.
Proximity to the house, you mean?
Exactly. You do not want nature's decomposition crew setting up a massive active colony 3 feet from your living room drywall.
Ah, Because they don't just stay in the stump.
No, they don't. Once they finish the appetizer, they go looking for the main course.
Right, they forage.
The stump is just the beachhead. As the colony grows and multiplies, they inevitably start foraging outward. And if that stump is anywhere near your home's foundation, it acts as a biological bridge.
So they establish themselves safely in the yard, build their numbers, and then migrate directly into the structural wood of your house. Yeah.
Exactly.
So you're essentially leaving a Trojan horse in your front yard.
That's a perfect way to describe it. But it's not just insects either. There's a botanical threat to leaving that stump behind.
Oh, right, the invasive vines.
Yeah, neglected stumps are absolute magnets for aggressive, unwanted vegetation. Things like invasive ivy or wild vines, they use the stump as an anchor point.
Because it's solid and out of the way of the lawnmower.
Right. The vines wrap around the decaying wood, and they establish a really strong base where your mower blades just can't reach them. From there, they spread out rapidly and literally choke your healthy, intentional plants.
Wow.
In some cases, a stump gets so overgrown with dense, tangled vines that a homeowner actually has to hire professional ivy removal just to find the wood again.
Visually, that just becomes a total nightmare. Plus, it's a physical hazard. Like, you have kids running through the yard. They easily trip over a hidden surface root.
Oh yeah, tripping hazards are a huge issue.
Or, you're out there on a Saturday trying to mow the lawn, and you have to constantly maneuver heavy equipment around this protruding block of wood.
And if you misjudge your distance, hitting a hidden hardwood root with a spinning lawnmower blade,
Yeah.
I mean, it is catastrophic.
Oh, I've been there. You're snapping blades, you're bending drive axles, you're spending hundreds of dollars on mower repairs, and all because you thought the job was done when the Trump came down.
Exactly.
So we know leaving it to rot near a house is a biological hazard, it's a physical obstacle, and a financial liability. We need it gone.
Yes, it has to go.
But how do you actually eradicate a massive, deeply anchored hardwood root system? Because honestly, my first thought would just be to grab a shovel, maybe a pickaxe, and start digging.
Which is entirely an exercise in futility.
Really, just completely impossible.
A mature tree's root system is incredibly vast and dense. It often spreads out much wider than the canopy itself.
Oh, wow.
So trying to dig out a large oak stump with hand tools would take weeks of backbreaking labor. And you would end up digging a crater the size of a minivan just to expose the main roots.
Just to expose them.
Yeah. It's not a weed you can just pull out.
So if digging it out by hand is impossible, what are the actual options here? Because people do handle this in different ways. You could use chemical treatments, right? I mean, I've seen those stump rotting chemicals at hardware stores.
You use chemicals to accelerate the natural rotting process, sure. You drill deep holes into the stump, pour in potassium nitrate or similar chemical agents, and you wait.
But does it work fast?
Well, accelerated is a relative term here. It still takes anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks for the wood to become spongy enough to chop apart with an axe.
2 months. 2 months of a chemical puddle sitting in the yard.
Yeah, exactly.
That's probably not ideal if you have dogs or kids running around. And if you need it gone today, chemicals obviously aren't the answer.
No, definitely not for urgent removal.
What about just bringing in an excavator? Like just violently ripping the whole thing out of the earth all at once?
Heavy excavation works, and it is fast. It might take a day or two, but it's essentially the equivalent of performing open-heart surgery on your yard.
That sounds destructive.
Very. The heavy tracks of the machinery destroy your turf, and pulling the entire root ball out violently rips up everything around it. It compacts the soil in the process, too.
So when would you ever actually do that?
You generally only use an excavator if you're on a construction site, and you need to pour a deep concrete foundation exactly where that tree used to stand. For a normal residential yard, the collateral damage is just way too high.
Which eliminates digging, chemicals, and excavators.
Right.
Leaving us with what the data shows is the sweet spot for residential and commercial green spaces mechanical grinding.
The grinder's the way to go.
The source notes this takes just 1 to 2 hours. The impact on the surrounding lawn is minimal, and the cost efficiency is really high. So chemical treatment is a slow burn, heavy excavation is like open heart surgery, but mechanical grinding is essentially a giant, high-speed cheese grater for hardwood.
That is a highly vivid way to describe it, but mechanically, yeah, it's very accurate.
A cheese grater.
Pretty much.
Wow.
A professional operator brings in a heavy-duty machine equipped with a massive, high-speed steel cutting wheel. And the critical detail here is that the edge of this wheel is outfitted with carbide teeth.
Carbide teeth. Because hardwood grain is just too tough for standard steel blades.
Exactly. Standard metal would dull, warp, or just snap against that kind of resistance.
Mm.
Tungsten carbide is exceptionally hard and heat-resistant. It's actually the same material used in industrial mining equipment.
Oh, wow. So they're bringing mining tech into the front yard.
Pretty much. The operator positions this heavy machinery over the stump and sweeps that high-speed cutting wheel back and forth.
And it doesn't just pull the wood up.
No, it doesn't pull or rip the wood at all. It systematically shreds it. It mills the dense, unyielding wood grain down into small, manageable chips in a matter of minutes.
But here is the critical engineering feat. The thing that separates stump grinding from just taking a chainsaw and cutting the wood flush with the grass. The operator doesn't stop at the surface.
Right. They keep going.
They mill the wood down several inches below the natural grade of the topsoil.
And going below the surface is the entire point of the process. It's not about just hiding the wood from view so you don't trip over it.
Right.
By grinding down into the earth, you are actively destroying the stump's anchor. You are completely severing the primary root collar.
And the root collar, just to clarify, is that massive junction where the trunk flares out and transitions into the subterranean root system.
Right, exactly. The collar acts as the biological and structural hub for the entire tree.
Okay, I see.
So by pulverizing that collar below the topsoil, you neutralize the stump's ability to function as a unified living system.
It kills the hub.
Yes. And practically speaking, milling below grade creates a deep enough depression that you can eventually fill it with fresh soil and plant grass over it, which completely erases the footprint of the tree.
It sounds like an incredibly elegant solution.
It is, when done right.
But looking at the sheer mechanics of a high-speed carbide wheel spinning at thousands of RPMs, I mean, this is absolutely not a DIY weekend rental project.
Oh, it is highly discouraged for the average homeowner to rent one of these machines. A heavy grinder is incredibly dangerous in untrained hands.
Just the flying debris alone, like you're shooting wood shrapnel and rocks everywhere.
The surface debris is a major hazard, yes. But the truly hidden dangers are underground.
What do you mean?
Well, when you're milling below the topsoil, you are venturing into the unknown. A local, insured professional knows how to navigate specific soil conditions, hidden boulders, and most importantly, utility line placements.
Oh man, utility lines.
Right. You do not want to accidentally mill through a buried power line, a gas line, or a pressurized water pipe just because you didn't know what was 3 inches below your grass.
Turns a weekend yard project into a neighborhood emergency real quick.
Exactly.
So we bring in the professionals, they safely sweep this high-speed wheel back and forth, they sever the root collar below the topsoil, and the visible stump is utterly pulverized. But looking at the aftermath, 2 massive questions pop up. First, what happens to the vast network of roots still trapped underground? I mean, they were radiating out from that trunk, and the machine obviously didn't chase every single root across the yard.
No, it definitely doesn't. The subterranean feeder roots are simply left in the soil.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because earlier, we spent all this time establishing that dead wood is a huge problem.
Right.
And now, we just left an entire network of dead wood under the lawn. Doesn't that invite the exact same pests and fungi we were just trying to avoid?
It's a really logical concern. But it all comes back to the engineering feat of severing that primary root collar.
Okay.
Those subterranean roots are now completely detached from their main life source and their structural hub.
Right, because the hub was pulverized.
Exactly. They no longer have that central mass of the stump to anchor them, feed them, or provide a concentrated, protected environment for a large pest colony to build a home.
So because they are isolated and spread out to the soil,
they safely and naturally decompose into the earth over time. Without the central hub, they don't cause surface disruption or support a concentrated pest invasion. They just slowly fade back into the dirt.
Okay, that makes total sense for the underground roots. But what about the surface? Because the grinding process doesn't vaporize the stump, it displaces it.
Yes, you get a lot of material.
You're left with this giant crater filled with a massive mound of fresh wood chips and mixed dirt right where the stump used to be.
And a lot of property owners view that mound as an annoyance. They want to bag it up, haul it to the dump, and just throw it away.
Which makes sense. You want the yard clean.
Sure, but it's actually an opportunity. Those fresh wood chips make fantastic mulch, especially for those hot, humid summer months we talked about in places like Hartford.
Oh, right, because mulch helps retain ground moisture around your other plant.
Exactly. You spread this freshly milled material around your established flower beds or the base of your healthy shrubs. It locks moisture into the soil, keeping the roots cool during heat waves.
That's incredibly useful.
Yeah, and it also acts as a very effective natural weed suppressant by physically blocking sunlight from reaching weed seeds in the topsoil.
Okay, but and I need you to help me square a circle here.
All right.
Early on, we firmly established that dead wood is a massive dinner bell for termites. Now, we have a giant pile of shredded dead wood chips, and we're talking about spreading them around the yard, potentially right next to the house's foundation.
I see where you're going with this.
Wouldn't that just attract 1 million termites to the flower beds? It feels like we just took the dinner bell and scattered it everywhere.
Termite behavior is so fascinating, and understanding how they actually operate explains why this isn't a threat at all.
Really?
Yeah, termites and carpenter ants don't just eat wood in a vacuum. They require highly specific environmental conditions to survive and build a colony.
Okay, what do they need?
They need solid, dense wood that offers two critical things: structural shelter and high moisture.
Right, and a solid stump is basically a dark, damp fortress.
Yes, but the mechanical grinding process violently shreds that fortress. It breaks the tough hardwood grain into loose, fragmented
So
pieces.
you lose the structure.
Immediately, you've destroyed the structural integrity. Termites build mud tubes and galleries, right? They cannot build stable tunnels in a loose pile of shifting chips. It would just collapse on them.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. The architecture is just gone.
And secondly, because the pieces are so small, fragmented, and loose, they have massive surface area exposure.
So they dry out.
Exactly. When you spread them out as mulch, they dry out rapidly in the sun and circulating air. The moisture element is completely removed. So you are left with dry, structurally compromised fragments.
And termites don't want that.
Termites have absolutely no interest in that. The grinding process fundamentally changes the physical properties of the wood. It turns it from a pest magnet into a pest deterrent.
That is wild. The mechanical action changes the biological appeal.
It really does.
Okay, but what if I don't want mulch? Like, what if the tree was right in the middle of my front lawn and I just want my pristine green grass back? The research gives a very clear warning here. It says you cannot just throw grass seed on top of this crater of wood chips.
Yeah, this is where we get into the chemistry of the soil, specifically the nitrogen cycle.
The nitrogen cycle.
If you try to plant grass seed directly over a high concentration of fresh wood chips, the grass will almost certainly fail. It just won't grow.
Because the wood is somehow poisoning the seed.
Not poisoning, starving it.
Oh.
Decomposition is an active biological process,
Right.
and it requires energy. As fresh wood chips begin to break down, the microorganisms doing that work require massive amounts of nitrogen to synthesize proteins for their own growth.
Okay, so they need nitrogen.
And they pull that nitrogen directly out of the surrounding soil. The problem is, nitrogen happens to be the exact primary nutrient that new grass seed needs to germinate and establish roots.
So the decomposing wood chips and the new grass seed are basically fighting a turf war for the exact same resource.
And the wood chips will win every time. They will outcompete the grass for the nitrogen, leaving the soil temporarily nutrient deficient.
So how do we fix that? Like, how do we prep the soil for actual growth?
You have to remove the conflict entirely. You take a rake and you pull all those excess wood chips out of the depression. Get them out of that specific area.
Okay.
Then you fill that empty crater with high-quality, nitrogen-rich topsoil. You've removed the nitrogen-draining wood, and you've replaced it with nutrient-dense earth.
And then you can apply your grass seed to that fresh topsoil, water it regularly, and you're good to go.
Exactly. By managing the soil chemistry properly, you're literally paving the way for new life.
Mm-hmm.
You can grow fresh grass, plant new ornamental shrubs, or even reclaim that space structurally, like extending a patio, all because you effectively manage the biological aftermath of the stump.
You know, taking all of this in, whether you're just prepping your yard for spring or you're someone who just naturally loves understanding the mechanics of how the world works, it completely changes how you view a standard landscaping job.
It really does shift your perspective.
Yeah, because you aren't just cutting things down, you're actively managing a micro-ecosystem. The soil, the nutrient cycle, the biological balance of the whole space.
It is a highly dynamic process.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to view our yards as these static, unchanging canvases, but beneath the surface, there is a constant, invisible chemical and biological exchange happening every single second of the day.
And there is one thought from the research that is just going to stick with me. We talked about those feeder roofs left behind. how a massive oak or maple root system can take decades to fully decay.
Right.
Once that primary root collar is severed by the grinder, those subterranean roots just stay in the earth, slowly and safely decomposing.
Entirely invisible from the surface. You never even know they were there.
Which makes you think about this invisible ghost architecture beneath our feet.
Yeah.
Like, think about it, even if you're walking across the most pristine, perfectly manicured, flat suburban lawn, right beneath your shoes, there is a vast, slowly decomposing subterranean network of roots from trees that were felled decades ago.
It's incredible to think about.
They are down there right now, quietly altering the soil chemistry, feeding the earth long after the tree itself has been completely forgotten.
It is a profound reminder that every piece of land has a deep history, and it is all written right there in the soil.
Something to think about the next time you look out at a perfectly flat stretch of grass.